Hey, check out these sweet reindeer socks. Only 99 cents.
Oh, yeah? Got this Samsung Tab 4 8.0 from AT&T for free.
Free?
Had a hard time finding a stocking it would fit in, though.
Whoa, no need to rub it in.
Rubbing it in would be telling you I got the tablet for free when I bought a new Samsung Galaxy smartphone on AT&T Next. Which I did.
Oh, AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Free tablet requires 2-year agreement. Must activate eligible service on both Galaxy devices. Fees, charges, and restrictions apply. Available at select locations. See store for details.
Blog Talk Radio.
Howdy, race fans. How the hell are you? Happy Thanksgiving, and welcome to another edition of the highly rated internet radio show, Racing with Big Sweat. I'm your host, Steve Big Sweat Billmyer. I'm here with my partners in crime. Hadn't talked to you guys in a couple of weeks. Had a few technical difficulties, so to speak. Mr. CJ Sports, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I am doing great. Glad to be here tonight. Thankful for everything you and Chris have done for the 110 Nation. So glad to be here. Just recovering from the weekend. Long weekend going down to Homestead, and a lot of driving and a lot of go time, so still trying to catch up with all that.
Yeah, that is a bit of an endless trip all the way down to the end of Florida there. I've made that trip before. I can sympathize with you. And over on the Mississippi side of things, my buddy Chris, YellowCautionFlag Creighton. You there with us, bud?
Well, yes, sir. We're enjoying this Thanksgiving holiday down here in the boondocks of Mississippi. Tell you what, it's a beautiful time of year, and I hope all of you have enjoyed your loved ones and had you a bit of that turkey and some green bean casserole. I tell you, it's nothing like another wonderful Thanksgiving holiday.
I know what you mean. My mom and I decided we'd go out and eat lunch, and we went to an excellent Mexican restaurant. So we ate Mexican food on Thanksgiving Day, and we had a good time. It was great. Love you, Mom.
Completely untraditional, but you got to love it when it comes from the Big Sweat.
There you go. I even wore a Hawaiian shirt. I figured it was appropriate. Well, I see we've got somebody on, so hope it's our buddy, the young driver, Cruz Skinner. You haven't heard of this young man, you just haven't been paying attention. Now, this dude is hot. He's hotter than a $2 set of jumper cables at a redneck family reunion. I mean, the boy is hot. He's won some races, and the thing I want to ask him about is one of the things about his home track he runs out, the Talladega short track. Let's bring him on in and talk to him a little bit. Cruz, you there, buddy?
I am.
Good to hear from you, Cruz. How you been doing? How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, yeah, it was great. Had a bunch of food, gained a couple pounds. Now I got to go run it off, work it off somehow to get the percentages right on the race car again.
Yeah, either make a couple of laps around the South 40 or move some lead. There's one thing I noticed you were lined up that I have been wanting to ask you. You're 14 years old, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you race at Talladega short tracks, and one of the guys you race with is Red Farmer, who nobody knows how old Red is. What is that like? Do y'all have a relationship and everything? Does Red try to help you out?
I mean, I don't talk to him a whole lot. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories about him. My dad used to race against him. And, I mean, me and him, I mean, it's been real fun racing with him, just kind of watching and just trying to figure some stuff out with him. And, I mean, me and him don't talk a whole lot at track, but, I mean, I have fun racing against him.
That's good. I bet you do. I've met him before, and he's a pretty cool dude. But like I said, nobody knows how old he is. I heard his social security number was 8. So I'm thinking
Come
thinking
on
he's
now,
pretty old.
Let's go. Now, Cruz, there is a big difference between ages between you and Red Farmer, but you kind of locked yourself in on a household name around these parts. Now, before we get too far into things, Cruz, I hear you made some good friends up there at the Calhoun County Sheriff's Department, and you just got done doing maybe cooking some turkeys or something for them. Tell us about that real quick before we get in the interview.
Yes, sir. Yesterday I went down to the Calhoun County Sheriff's Office, and people would bring in their turkeys, and everybody at the Sheriff's Office would help cook them and wrap them and get them ready for those people who brought them in. And I just went down there and helped out as much as I could. I mean, I just did whatever they needed to do, whether it was carrying turkeys or wrapping them up in tinfoil or whatever they needed me to do. But, I mean, that was a whole lot of fun, just being able to go out there and volunteer and just go out there and help as much as I can. I just wanted to go out there and help people and have fun.
That's right, Cruz. Now, that money was going to help the Alabama Baptist Christian Children's Home, and so they'll be using that money there, the proceeds there, to get some Christmas presents for some needy children around that area. But now, Cruz, you're no stranger to social media and interviews and radio shows. Tell us about your busy schedule and about how all the hard work it takes to get you the type of backing that you have in the fan support. I know it goes into a lot of behind the scenes work for you there.
Oh yes, sir. I mean, we have a couple people that help us out on our Facebook. Mark Pons does a lot on the Facebook. Then me and my dad will do stuff, on the Facebook, and we all just Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We all just kind of work on that, try to let fans know what's going on, and I mean, we all just really work together on that, and then we just have to really plan our time out because as of right now, I'm in school. I mean, we're right in the middle of the year, so I'm having to finish my homework, projects, study, and all that. So I mean, we really just have to communicate and talk about when we're going to do stuff. Right.
So now, some of your accomplishments this year. Now, we'll go back to 2014. You were one of the youngest contesters in the Neesmith National Point. Now we move on. You finished 13th in the national standings. Now, this year you moved along, and through most of the year you finished second. You were second in points. Then there at the last point of the year, you fell back to third. But now tell us about running against all these drivers in the National Series and some of the better well-known names that you've had to race in competition for the championship.
Oh, yes, sir. I mean, that was just a ton of fun, just going out there and just trying to travel around as much as we could and go out there and compete for the points. I mean, really, we didn't watch the points a whole lot until it got to near the end of the season. We just went out there and tried to get as much as wins as possible. And, I mean, I know there's a bunch of guys from Mississippi running up there, running at tracks like Magnolia, Wynot, and Greenville, places with a bunch of competition. And, I mean, I went there a couple of times, and, I mean, that's just a whole lot of fun going up there running with them guys.
Now, Cruz, you've got a special nickname. What do they call you at the racetrack?
They call me Cruz Missile.
Now, how did you get that as a nickname?
Actually, it came along at near mid-season or near the end of last year, and actually Ronnie Johnson came up with that nickname.
The Chattanooga Flash, Ronnie Johnson.
Yes, sir. I mean, to me, that's just a great honor and a legend in the sport, giving me a nickname like that, and how highly he talks to me. I mean, he's helped me out a lot through my racing career. I mean, whether it's set up or driving, I mean, just how to adjust to the track, what to watch for in the track, and I mean, me and him text through the week a lot, and I mean, he just writes me these books on text message, and I mean, I just appreciate everything he does for me.
That's right. Now, you finished third in the national points. Tell us about being a track champion and what that means to you to get at your home track at Talladega Short Tracks.
I mean, growing up, I've always wanted to race. I mean, ever since I was a little boy, as far back as I can remember. I remember watching NASCAR on TV, and my dad and my grandfather taking me to the track just about every weekend. And, I mean, every time I went, my passion and love for the sport just grew more and more and more every time I went. And when I got winning the track points this year, and that's just a huge accomplishment for me, being able to do it in my second year in a late model. I mean, I know I've got an opportunity that most kids don't have. And, I mean, I just really appreciate everybody that's helped me out this year and last year, and actually throughout my whole career, whether it's go-karts or the front-wheel drive cars or the late models. I mean, I just can't thank everybody enough for helping me and getting me where I am.
I know you have a lot of wins to this date. 342, I think, is your total amount of wins since you were in go-karts. And I'm sure a lot of them this year were memorable. How many wins did you get this year, real quick?
This year we had 9 wins at Talladega and Penton Raceway. So I mean, we definitely had an amazing season with a bunch of second, third, and fourth place finishes. I mean, we've really been dialed in this year, and I mean, we just had a great year, and all my crew members have been working hard at it.
Though, right? I mean, you had 9 wins, and 10 wins altogether, but you also had your first rollover, right?
Actually, that was at the end of last November, right around Halloween. Sir?
Tell us about that. Tell us about that and how it affected your driving skills afterwards.
Oh, that was definitely a fun ride. But last year we went to the Nationals, and that was my first year in a late model. So we're going to go down there, and I believe it was my third time down there, and we're just going to go down there and try to make the show and get some laps in. And we go down there Thursday and Friday night. We're real fast, and then Saturday comes and we're daytime qualifying, something that I haven't done a whole lot of. And, we're a little off. We didn't quite adjust like we needed to, and I mean the track just picked up tenths and tenths as qualifying went on. I was the second one out, so I just kind of had some bad draw and luck right there. But I got put in a Conti race, or last chance race, and we was probably running 120, 125, 130 going down straight away into the corner. I got door slammed off the track, and when I landed, I mean, just the right sides just grabbed and rolled about 3-4 times so it stood up on the hood and spun around a couple times and it sat back down. I mean, when my dad got over, he asked me if I was okay. I told him get the other car out. I'm ready to go back out and finish the seat race. He looked at me like I was crazy and told me we only had one car there.
That's pretty neat, Cruz. You've mentioned your dad a couple of times. You said he was a racer in his own right. Describe his career a little bit. What level did he race in, and how did he do? How did he inspire you to be a racer?
Well, my dad raced for 26 years. I believe he started when he was 18 years old. So, I mean, he definitely had a good career. He raced at Talladega, Green Valley, Winchester. He raced around the Southeast like we are right now, and he raced a late model. And, I mean, he won multiple track championships, and I know one year he won the Kilpatrick Challenge, which was winning the Green Valley and the Talladega track points in the same year. So, I mean, I've heard a lot of stories. I saw him race once or twice that I remember. And, I mean, inspiration-wise, I mean, he was one of my main inspirations because I grew up hearing all these stories about how great of a racer he was, and, I mean, just on, and him taking me to the track. And like I said, that just made my love and passion for the sport just grow. I mean, that really got me interested into it, and then he gave me the opportunity to race a go-kart when I was 5 years old, so I jumped at the opportunity, and, I mean, my career just grew from there.
And he's still actively helping you now with your car?
Oh, yes, sir, definitely. I mean, me and him down there at shop whenever we can. We have one full-time guy down there every day, all week. UB McFadden, he is my crew chief. He's down there working hard every day on the car, and then me and my dad go down there as much as we can, and my dad's down there at the track every weekend with me, and, I mean, he helps me. He helps work on the car. He helps me driving-wise, tell me things I can improve on, just passing his knowledge down to me.
Now, you said
that's
something
good.
about
It's
your crew
always
chief.
good to get family involved. Do you have any other family members that are involved in your racing or in their own racing?
I mean, all my family members support me, come out as much as I can, but I mean, he's the only one that, you know, works on the car and all that. But I mean, I have such a great family. I'm so blessed and fortunate to have a great family that supports me and I mean, just supports everything I do, no matter what, whether I make a bad decision, a good decision, or whatever. They're always they're just there for me, and I mean, I can't thank them enough.
That's cool. It sounds like you've got a pretty interesting deal going. You mentioned your crew chief, Lib McFadden. Tell us a little bit more about him, what his background is and everything.
UB's been into racing ever since he was growing up, and I know for a long time he went racing with Ronnie Johnson, went up there, worked with him at his shop, and, you know, would stay weeks and weeks, just work with him, go to the track with him. And, I mean, UB's passing all that knowledge that he's learned from Ronnie and everybody he's raced with down to me. And, I mean, I really appreciate him doing that. But, like I said, he's really experienced in racing. He can tell us a lot of things to do. And, I mean, I just really appreciate him working as hard as he does.
Well, sounds like you've got a pretty good base built right there. How far are you planning on taking this? What are your future plans and what are your future goals?
Well, my ultimate goal would be to end up in one of the higher NASCAR series, like the Sprint Cup or the Xfinity Series, and I mean that's just what I'm working toward right now. Just, you know, moving up as we think we're ready, just getting experience as we go.
Have you driven anything on asphalt yet?
Yes, sir. I believe it was 2 years ago while I was still racing the front-wheel drive cars. We got a Honda Civic, and we went to Montgomery Motor Speedway. I believe we raced 3 or 4 times, and it was my first time racing a straight shift, first time racing a car on asphalt. So, and we go out there and win the first race, and they have a rule in that class down there where if you win, you have to start in the back next time you come back. So the next time we come back, we come through the field and win again with a couple. We took the lead with a couple laps to go. So I mean that was a great experience for me, being able to go out there and race on asphalt with some extremely experienced guys. I mean, it was just a lot of fun to get out there and get that experience.
Cool deal. That's a pretty neat deal, isn't it, Chris? Where you win one week and they make you start in the back the next week. Is that pretty common down there?
Well, for the beginning of the series a lot of times. But now I tell you what, you go down to Five Flags or to Mobile Raceway, and the promoters kind of run the show how they want to. I think it's called a 25-30 race. I think we've talked about that before, Steve.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do invert the field. Now we have a 25-lap, 2 twin 25s through the sprint cars that we bring in to Hattiesburg Speedway, and it's called the flip-flop. the flip-flop 25s. And what they do after 25 laps is they flip-flop the field, which is inverted. So, it adds to the entertainment, Steve. And that's what these boys are. They're race car drivers, but they're also entertainers. And I tell you what, Cruz has his hands full. He's a spokesperson for several different campaigns and all through the state of Alabama and all. Cruz, tell us about some of those campaigns that you're on.
All right, well, this year the great state of Alabama chose me to be the spokesperson for the Click Your Ticket campaign this year. And, I mean, that was just a great honor for them to pick me, and I got to do their commercial this year and be on the billboard and all that. And, I mean, that's just a lot of fun, being able to go out there and spread the word about safety, try to help people, and hopefully save some lives. And I also went and talked to about 5 or 6 different schools, and I talked to kindergarten through 4th grade, I believe, about seatbelts. And what we was trying to do was teach them while they're still young, try to get them into a habit before they get into a habit of not wearing their seatbelt, and instead of trying to break a bad habit, them already being in the habit of, buckling up. So, I just went there and tried to teach them the importance of seatbelts and, safety, whether it's riding a bicycle or scooter or being in a car, buckle up, helmet, and, stuff like that. And, I just really enjoy going out there and talking to kids, and we brought the car out there for them to look at. So, that was a lot of fun for me to go out there and talk to them.
Now, did you get to see somebody special at Talladega this year? I think I've seen a picture on the internet of maybe you and Tony Stewart meeting up. How cool is that to meet a profile, a legendary driver such as Tony Stewart?
Oh, yes, sir. On October 23rd or 24th at the short track, Tony Stewart was up in the press box, and I was fortunate enough to go up there and meet him, talk to him for a little while. I got to listen to some of his stories, and, it was just a lot of fun and a great honor to go up there and meet such a legendary driver who's been in the sport so long. And, I really enjoyed watching them race, whether it's in the Sprint Cup Series or sprint cars or dirt late models.
Yeah, right.
I just really enjoy it.
Did he give you any pointers? Did he teach you anything that you didn't already know? We all know you're a superstar on the dirt here, but Tony's kind of earned a name for himself as well. Did he give you any pointers?
He just told me a couple of things. He just told me to stay out of trouble, just keep on doing what I'm doing, and just don't give up, really. But I've really appreciated him taking time out of his day and, just talking to me for a second. And like I said, it was just such a great honor.
So what's the plans for the rest of the year, Cruz?
He is a pretty cool dude to talk with. I've talked with Tony before. He's an interesting guy. As far as your future, Cruz, are you homeschooled or are you in public school now? And how far do you plan on taking your education?
Right now I'm at Oxford High School. I'm a 9th grader there. And, I'm going to finish high school. Then if I make it in racing, get to go travel around, then I'm planning on taking college courses, online college courses, just continue my education, because you really never know when you'll my education is the most important to me right now. My education is number one. Then once I finish studying or homework or stuff like that, doing projects, then I can go work on a race car. And that's how I'm working it right now, is just get my education, because right now that's just the most important to me.
Do you think that gives you an advantage doing as much work as you do and being around your car as much as you are, to give you the advantage of knowing every inch of your race car and what it's supposed to feel like and what it's supposed to do?
Oh, yes, sir. I think it's definitely an advantage if you go learn all the parts and what everything does on a car, and what the car's supposed to feel like. Like, we'll go out and practice at Talladega, and since we already know what we really need there, we'll go out and test something. And, we'll be off, and, I'll tell my dad we're too loose here and then too tight here, stuff like that. Then, you have to remember that feel in case you need it at another track. So,
yeah,
that's definitely a big help, being able to learn the car and learn what everything does.
Yeah, it definitely is. Do you have any trouble communicating what you're feeling and what you're wanting to your crew, how you want the car set up?
No, sir. Me and my dad's raced together long enough. We know how to communicate on stuff like that now, and me and him really work together. I tell him what I'm feeling, and then he fills me in on what he sees, and we just kind of work together and get up a plan real quick, and we'll just go change the car and whatever we think we need. And if it's not right, then we learn from our mistake and we'll fix it next time.
It sounds like you've got a pretty good deal, though, where you've got somebody that not only do they know your driving style and have a good idea of what you want, but they have enough seat time. They know exactly what you're talking about when you describe a situation, and probably gives them a quicker heads up on how to fix the problem. That is a good setup you've got there, you and your dad working good.
Oh, yes, sir. I'm definitely very fortunate to be in the position I'm in. And I know a lot of kids don't get the opportunity I do. So like I said, I'm just very fortunate and very blessed to be able to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's something special. I got the chance to partner with my dad on an asphalt late model team, and it was late in life, but I was still so thankful that I got to spend 9 years working side by side with my dad and everything. It's special time. Enjoy it while you can.
Oh, yes, sir. That's one of my favorite parts about being able to race with my dad and, really close friends. Just going out there and making memories, things that you can't replace. Just going out there and having fun, making memories. That's stuff that's, you can't really replace. Just getting to spend so much time with my dad, that's just amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Now, Cruz, you're only about 15 likes away from that Facebook page that y'all have. You're about close to 5,000 there. Make sure that you send those guys, anybody listening, y'all go over to the Facebook page, Skinner Motorsports, and give them a few of those likes. It'd be a great Thanksgiving present from all the ones listening to the 110 Nation to go over there and like that Facebook page for them.
Yes, sir. That definitely, I really appreciate it. And if you need to keep up with us, we're on Twitter and Facebook at Skinner Motorsports, and I believe we're on LinkedIn at Cruz Skinner, and we're on Instagram also at Skinner Motorsports. And we'll be posting updates wherever we're going, what our plans are. We'll give updates through the night. So, if you're looking to keep up with us, and that's just a really good, quick, easy way to keep up with us.
Definitely. Now, tell us about some of the sponsors and all that help you out and decorate that pretty car of yours.
I just need to thank everybody that helps us out. Skinner Body Shop, Skinner Motors, Napa Auto Parts, Total House, Real Wheel Racing Wheels, Austin Hines Motors. I just want to thank Nee Smith real quick for putting on such a great series and putting out these motors. And I also want to thank Affordable Lawn Care, Kaiser Manufacturing, and just everybody else that helps on the car, all my crew members, my dad, UB McFadden, my crew chief, Tim Spears, Doug McKenzie. Those two are volunteer guys that come help whenever they can. I just really want to thank them, and I want to thank my grandfather for supporting me and always being there for me, and the rest of my family for supporting me and, just always being there for me.
Great to hear from you, Cruz, and good luck next year with the Neesmith National Points. You and Michael Arnold, I think, are going to put on a heck of a show. You'll have to come up to Hattiesburg and race Noah Dasford and Shannon and Michael Arnold and give us a sneak peek of how well you're going to run next year. Look forward to seeing you again too.
Oh yes, sir, definitely. I just can't wait for next year to come around and racing and start back up for us and just get back out there on the track and make some more laps.
I think I did hear, Cruz. Is it true that I heard that the Ice Bowl is going to be a Neesmith Points race? Is that right?
Honestly, I do not know. I haven't heard anything like it.
That would be a way to kick off the season there if that is true. We'll find out if that's true or not as the time gets closer. But definitely cool having you on, Cruz, and you got a lot of good people around you, a lot of big time support. We noticed as we were getting ready for the show, Steve, that we have two big time Alabama boys really that are going to be on the show tonight. Robbie Allison will be up later on, and of course, he's the son of legendary Davey Allison. So we're giving a great shout-out this weekend to the Alabama people.
Yeah, it's definitely got an Alabama flavor to it this weekend. It was good talking with you, Cruz. I'm glad I got to put a voice to the name and everything. I'd heard and read a lot about you, and I'm glad I got to meet you and talk with you, and I'm sure I'll be hearing a lot more about you. Appreciate you giving us your social media sites so we can keep up with you, and we'll holler at you later on next season, see how you're doing then.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I just want to take a second right here and thank y'all for having me on y'all's show, and hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah,
right,
definitely so. We're all about local short track racing, so you're welcome on anytime. If you know anybody that you think should be on here, just send us a message and we'll get them lined up. Thanks again, bud.
Thank you.
All right, happy Thanksgiving. He's a very interesting young man, isn't he, Chris?
I tell you what, a class act, my friend, and he has a good support staff around him, like we said before. Cruz is being groomed to be a professional driver one day, and I think he's one of those that like you said, he's in a good position, and he's got a lot of talent. The kid's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of good people working there for him. Like you said, Ronnie Johnson. If you don't know the Chattanooga Flash, you don't know nothing about dirt track racing. I tell you what, he's a legend.
I've heard of Ronnie.
Definitely a great guy. And it's cool to hear his enthusiasm. Of course, the last time that I talked to him on the radio, he sounded a little bit younger. So I think the voice is getting a little bit deeper. He's got a few more wins up underneath his belt. I'm telling you, in the next couple of years, you may be hearing his name very soon.
Yeah, 2 wins ain't the only thing he's got under his belt now. You could tell his voice was changing.
Yes, sir. That's true. I guess they get a little bit older and that voice gets a little bit deeper. But it's cool, and I think that's one of the coolest things about being on the side of the racing that I'm on as a media member. I get to see these kids and watch them grow up, and people tell me the stories of some of the younger guys that are pretty successful now, like Michael Arnold and all. They tell me about his go-kart days, and you get to see these drivers progress, and some of them have this twinkle to them, and Cruz Skinner is definitely one of those. Just the name Cruz Skinner. It rings a bell. The missile. Yeah. Cruz missile. It's great.
It sticks in your mind.
Go ahead, Steve.
It sticks in your mind. That's what you want. That's what everybody's after, is being memorable. So,
and we dropped the ball. I wanted to know where his number 11 come from. It's a good question we always ask on the show. Where did the number come from? So if he's still listening to the show, maybe he'll answer that for us.
Or we'll get him back on one night one time, and we'll make sure we ask him that.
Hey, if you're still listening, Cruz, tweet us at 110 Nation on Twitter if you got Twitter, or DM us. He's still listening. He's in the studio. He just muted, so I know he's still listening. So let us know where the number 11 came from.
That's right.
That'll be the big question on my mind. But while we're at it, let's get back to the subject at hand. Another Alabama driver we want to talk to that is well known throughout the Southeast, both his driving ability and his heritage. And he's doing big things, and he's got hooked up with a gentleman that's been a guest on our show before, who's a driver in his own right, who's now climbed out of the seat and got behind the desk, so to speak, and is the car owner. I'm interested to find out how they hooked up and everything. So let's talk with car owner Wayne Goss and driver Robbie Allison. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Robbie, doing good.
Good deal. How's your season been so far, Robbie? It's kind of tailing down now, but how successful have you been this year?
Yeah, we've had a great year. Actually, it's really not slowing down for me right now, believe it or not. I know usually when the weather starts to get colder, you know, a lot of drivers go back home to their families and whatever else they're doing with their lives. But I'm still racing almost every weekend, and you know, really we're kind of on the Robbie Allison plan right now of if there's a race happening, we try to be there for it, you know. So that's what we've been doing, and I mean, it's been a great year. You know, I started out my season racing over at Kingsport, Lonesome Pine, and East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. Learned a ton, got plenty of seat time, and then made my way back over to some of my old stomping grounds in Nashville, Tennessee, and was racing at a little quarter-mile track called Highland Rim, and managed to pull off a win there in about probably 15 top threes, and you know, it seemed like every week we were either, you know, there for the checkers or right there on it, and able to pick up a lot of experience there. We're right now, actually, what I'm doing is I've been driving back and forth from my home in Mooresville, North Carolina, outside of Charlotte, up to Richmond, Virginia, to do some arena racing, which is a deal that's been around for a little while. And it's pretty wild. If you don't know anything about it, it is crazy. You better strap in tight, because I've been icing my ribs all week.
I've been up there and seen that. It's a show like you wouldn't believe. You've been running late models, and you've done pretty good with your car. How did you get hooked up with Wayne Goss?
Yeah, Wayne and his brother Tim, I was able to meet him last week because of a mutual friend of ours who works with Southern National, John Fick. I met him from going over and running at East Carolina Motor Speedway a few times, and he's a great guy. Has been, you know, stepping into some promoting roles with Southern National and is doing a lot of really good things for them. So he just, you know, he thought that Wayne and I would be a good fit as far as, you know, me moving into late models and you know, finding a guy that really knows how to get it done, and he's a track champion out there, as you know. Knows these cars, knows that track, and from what I've seen, he just plain knows how to race. So you know, he thought we'd be a good fit for each other. So we met up last week, went out to the track and tested for about. We probably only ran 30 laps all day, and I would say that was some of the most valuable 30 laps that I've ever been able to complete in a car. You know, having Wayne on the radio with me and teaching me a little bit about these late model style cars. So I mean, I think it'll be good. I think it'll be a really good deal. We're talking about maybe some plans to work together more in the future, but right now, you know, we're looking ahead to tomorrow and racing tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, Wayne's been guest on our show a couple of times. How you doing, Wayne? I'm glad to have you back, bud.
I'm doing pretty good. I appreciate it, and just listening in, just really impressed with this young man here. I think his talent is very, very good, and in my opinion, I believe we got a winner on our hands. So, I mean, boy can flat drive a race car.
Yeah, it's definitely a good combination, and you sound enthusiastic about the race this weekend. The race is at Southern National Motorsports Park in Kenly, North Carolina. Easy to get to, right off Interstate 95. Tell them about the track and what they'll expect this weekend at Kenly.
Well, it's a 4/10 mile track, high bank, very, very similar to Bristol in my opinion, but very fast. You're going to see a lot of good racing this weekend. They got every division. They got super late models, late model stocks, limited late models, Charger division, U-Cars, street stocks, mini stock mayhem. They're going to have a ton of cars. Massive 3-day race. Before I get any further, I would really like to say I want to send my prayers out to the Lee Pulliman family with his wife getting in an accident today. Just send the prayers out to them and let the Lord bless them, for their situation going on. But this weekend's going to be a good weekend, and I think Robbie's going to be able to get the job done. I think he's going to be real good at what he does, and very, very happy to be able to have him on board. Like I say, we might do some stuff in the future, but as of right now, we're going to want to look at tomorrow and see how he does, and I think he'll be good at it. So,
what do you think of the high bank, high speed track there at Southern National, Robbie?
First of all, I got to say, Wayne, I didn't know you were even going to be on the air tonight, but it's good to hear you, man, and I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to working with you tomorrow. I've been introduced to Southern National before. I was able to go out there and run there about a year and a half ago in an Allison Legacy car, and we put speedway windows on the car. I mean, those little cars on that big track, you might as well have been at Talladega. And so, being able to climb into a full-size stock car to get back on the track out there, it was like a completely new place, but I couldn't have had a better time doing it. I mean, that's the most fun I've ever had in a race car, and up to this point. I mean, I'm just really, really looking forward to it. I thought the track was awesome. The car was on rails. I mean, we just couldn't have had a better day, in my opinion.
I heard that. You've mentioned quite a few of the tracks that I've been to and raced at, Lonesome Pine, East Carolina Speedway, Southern National. But you're from Alabama. How did you get hooked up in North Carolina, and what brought you to North Carolina?
That's a great question. I was born and spent the first little while of my life in Alabama, but after my dad's passing and uncle's passing, there's just and of course my grandfather's early retirement. There's just a lot of emotions that were floating around, and my mom and my sister and I ended up moving to Nashville, Tennessee, and so I went to school in Nashville, and in that time, my grandparents, Robbie Allison and Judy Allison, they were having the same conflict, is that it was just too emotional to be in Alabama after all of the loss that we endured, and so they moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, kind of to race Central, and so I would say that between Lorin Ranier really talking me into moving out there and getting on this program, and me, wanting to be closer to him and my grandparents, and to, really try to jump into the racing deal. It just seemed to me like it was a no-brainer to be in Charlotte and to be available when I could to do anything. So, like I said, the plan that we're on right now is that if there's a race happening, we try to be there if we can, and we try to be a part of it. So, sometimes that takes us to places like a Lonesome Pine or, down to a Florence Motor Speedway or to Southern National. But, I mean, if there's something going on there that's worth us being there, then we try to be there for it.
Robbie Allison, this is Chris from YellowCautionFlag.com. First of all, we want to give you a great big happy Thanksgiving, and thanks for coming on the show on this Thanksgiving night. I guess what I want to get to is let's hear about this Bobby Allison regimen. I mean, is there a certain diet to it? Is it just eating and breathing and bleeding racing? I mean, do they have you mechanicking? What do you do during your off time when you're not in the race car?
Yeah, good question. Mostly eating, sleeping, and breathing racing. I try to. I mean, I went to college, and so I try to almost treat it the same way as I have homework every week that I do. I mean, I binge watch racing on YouTube a lot, and try to implement things that I learn every time I get back into a car, and from what I've seen, it allows me to progress and to get immediate gratification, to see myself get better every time I get back in the car. So I mean, a lot of it is just surrounding myself with the right guys that know a ton more than I do, and following just following other people's guidance. But outside of that, I mean, most of what I do when I'm not racing is, I'm big into personal fitness. I'm very, very. It's important to me to stay in shape. It helps me with racing as well, mentally and physically. So I run and I do weight training. No problem. And outside of that, I really just listen to a bunch of music and I'm into writing. I write things down a lot. That was what I went to school for. So. But I would say that 23 out of the 24 hours of my day are taken up with racing.
That's the sign of a gearhead there, Steve. Now, Robbie, tell us about the couple of years of the experience that you've received. Is this the dream that you've been waiting for as a child? From watching the Fox special that they had, we know that there was a separation of the racing after a go-kart incident. But as a young man, I know that you had to have dreamed about what it was going to be like if given the chance to drive a race car. Are you fulfilling that dream right now? Is it everything that you hoped it would be in those childhood fantasies?
Absolutely. I can't remember what exactly I was babbling on about in the special, but I was really nervous during that process. Just opening up about a lot of that stuff, But I mean, something that I can tell you is that when I was growing up, my dad was a superhero to me, and my grandfather the same. They were, when they put on their fire suits, they were larger than life, and the way they carried themselves, the way they raced, the way they talked, it was really, really awesome standing that, and I would dream every day, every night about what it would be like. When I had to stop racing as a younger kid, that wasn't necessarily something I wanted. I was ready to keep going and to keep digging, but understandably so, it was just too fresh on my family's mind after the tragedies that we did through. I stopped for a while and continued to dream about what it would be like, continued to try to push my mom into let me do it, but of course, it wasn't until I was a full-blown adult that it was time for me to jump back in the car. And, I'm a God-fearing person, so I believe they happen the way they're supposed to. And I'm having a blast doing what I'm doing now. I mean, I feel really good about my program. I feel like we're making great gains, and we definitely see and get enough success to encourage us to keep pushing forward, So I trust in the process. I think it's turning out to be a really good deal.
Okay, that's right, and I remember looking back a couple of years ago on the article out of the Kingsport News. You won your very first race you raced in, right?
Yeah, the first race I went out to at Kingsport, I won. It was at a pure stock event out there.
Tell us about your first win and how much emotion that was, being in a car for the first time.
That was neat. It was really, really cool. You know, I didn't really know much about the track yet. I had been up there, I think, maybe once. Actually, I'm not even sure if I had gone up there at all yet. But I was familiar with the car that I was racing. I had tested in the car before, and you know, I just went up there, and my grandparents were there, which I think that gave me a little extra speed inside the car. And
that's right.
For me, that was one of the coolest parts about it, is that they were there for my first win. And you know, what was cool was just to hear my granddad tell me how well he thought I did, because I can speak firsthand to this. If I'm not doing well, if I'm slacking off, or he feels like, you know, like I could be doing better, or maybe my car is not very good, then I mean, he'll tell me. You know, he'll be straight up about it. And so to hear him tell me how proud he was of that experience was just absolutely huge for me. You know, and I will say, you know, I've heard people mention this before, and I can attest to it now as well. It's really tough to be in a situation when you win your first race, you know, because then, you know, it feels great, but it's almost like, you know, you get there a little too fast. I think that if I was somebody else, then I would have liked to see me maybe have to work up to winning that first race, because then you have a heightened expectation of yourself from that point on. You know, you could have a really good race the next week, racing against twice as many cars, maybe finish second or third, which is what happened to me the next week, and I can't appreciate it as much. You know, even though I raced a more competitive race, I learned more and was able to put more into it. Finishing second just wasn't good enough, which I think that's why a lot of us race, is because second place isn't good enough, you know. So, yeah. So I mean, it's good, but it definitely made me have to push myself a little bit harder for the rest of the year.
Well, that's one of the motivating factors you have. How about the name Allison? Is that a benefit to you? Is it an extra weight that you have to carry around? What are your feelings about being tied to the legacy of the Allisons, and how much pressure is that put on you to succeed?
Yes and yes. It's a mixed bag of emotions. You know, of course, personally, I could not be more proud to be an Allison, and you know, to relate to my father and my grandfather and my uncle and great uncle and aunts and grandmothers and everybody in my family. I mean, we're a tight knit bunch, and we love each other, and we stick up for each other and look out for each other. You know, so as a human being, I could not be more. Of course, as a driver, it does have its benefits and its drawbacks. What I've seen is that, you know, having the name brings in enough interest for me to get, you know, certain doors and opportunities opened up, but that's as far as it goes. Is that, you know, I get opportunities that are presented to me, and then I have to really take the reins and prove myself, you know, because there is a heightened expectation that goes along with the name, and you see that with any racing name. It seems like it's just part of our culture, you know, is that there's a heightened expectation, whether that be talent or money or resources or anything else. And usually the expectation comes from other drivers, you know, which means that sometimes I'm in a situation where there's a target on my back on the track, and have to, you know, wrestle my way out of some pretty sketchy situations in a race car, you know. So at first that was a hard transition for me, because I'm a friendly guy and I like to get along with everybody. So, you know, it's hard not to take it personally when somebody's, you know, flipping you upside down and wrecking you into a wall. But after a while, I started to realize, you know what, I'm seeing the benefits from this firsthand, because every time I got in the car, I started missing some of those wrecks. And when that happened, I started finding myself in those top 5s and top 3s and winning more often. So I mean, I've seen that, you know, I've even been in a few situations where I've told people, keep the target on my back. Just if that's what you want to do, then try. Because if I know you're coming for me, then I'm going to be on my game. So I mean, it's all in all, it turns out to be a huge blessing, but it definitely can be frustrating from time to time.
I know you're listening to all this, Wayne. It sounds like you've got a weapon on your hands there. This man wants to race. I guess that's motivating you that much more down at Southern National this weekend, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely. He's a class act kid. I'm meeting him Tuesday. Very, very impressed with him. I think he's got something, and I think he's got what it takes to make a car go. I mean, like I say, he had mentioned that we had run about 30 laps, and his first 10-lap segment out there was he came up to speed pretty quickly, get a feel for the car, and his second 10 laps, man, I mean, he was on it, and it was that quick. He had picked it up that quick, and so I knew then that we had something to work with here, and something that was going to go out there and take checker flags and bring home what it takes to bring home to go racing, and I think he's a good mix for our group of people that we hang out with, and because we're all pretty laid back, and we don't consider each other being better than somebody or anything, and that's what I get from this young man here. He doesn't act like he's better than anybody, and which I'm very impressed with, and hopefully in the future, even when he decides to move on and do something else, hope to see him at some racetrack somewhere, and and enjoy our company again, So, but yeah, man, I mean, I can't be any prouder to put somebody of his caliber in my car, and I'm pretty optimistic about tomorrow night, man. I think we got something here to it's going to put a little show on.
Yeah, you mentioned something earlier that somebody like me, as a car owner, would recognize the feeling, but when he runs them first 10 or 12 laps and he does better than what you expected, and you get that little shiver in your spine and a little half smile on your face, and you just know inside, that, hey, this is going to work out. This guy's got the stones to be a big driver and everything. Yeah. I mean, it's just a great feeling when it happens, and I've had it happen to me before too, so I know you're excited about this weekend. It
is, and it's funny you bring that up because I had brought the stone deal up too, and but he's, I was very impressed with him. He came up to speed, pretty quick, and when he got it up to speed, I was like, well, maybe I'm not as good as a driver as I thought I was, because man, it didn't take him long to do my lap times, and I said, shoot, I thought I was doing something, and he comes in there and makes me look bad for a few minutes there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, so, but very good guy, and he's.
Hey, Wayne's just being humble. Don't listen to him. He's just being humble.
No. That's funny, but yeah, I mean, he's done good, and you got somebody, that he's helping him. That Lorin Ranier, he's pretty up on his game too, so it's no slouch there by no means. So, but and he's listening in. He's there with Robbie. So, but yeah, he knows what he's doing. So, that these guys here, they're a pretty smart group of guys, and glad to have them on board for this race here, and hopefully some in the future.
Yeah, for those that didn't catch that, Lorin Ranier is well known in the Cup garage. He was a spotter. He's recently retired as a spotter for Jamie McMurray and the son of Harry Ranier from the earlier days of racing, from my racing. So shout out to you, Lorin. I know you're a sharp guy, and you're a big advantage to these gentlemen having them. So it's kind of like a stool. You got the three basic legs there to hold the stool up, so you got your foundation and you're ready to go racing now. On a more personal note, Wayne, how is it making the transition from driver to car owner? I know you recently retired. How's that working out for you?
Well, I kind of semi-retired. I mean, I wasn't going to run a full schedule because I'm old, and when you're old, it hurts, but I was going to run some here and there and try to play with some late model stuff, and you know. So I mean, it's you know, to see somebody in my car, you know, I mean, sometimes it's like, you know, but you know, it's like I say, you go back to the group of people. When you go back to the group of people and you got good people, you don't mind it, you know. So, but you know, as far as running for a championship, I was definitely done with that. You know, I wasn't interested in running for a championship anymore because I just don't think that the process of doing that was, you know, where I wanted to go. So, but to have someone to, you know, just to come over on board and it makes you kind of want to run for one again, you know. But I mean, but with not me as a driver, you know. So anyway, yeah. So. Yeah,
take a little getting used to. Looks like we got a caller. Somebody wants to call in and give you all a question. Caller, where are you calling from, and what's your name?
My name's Rod, calling from Florida.
All right, how you doing this evening?
Doing great. My question is to Robbie about what you think about this coming full circle with Lorin being, you know, the person that was very instrumental in your dad getting a ride with Ranier Racing, and now all of a sudden you just want to know what your thoughts were about that.
Thanks for your question. Yeah, working with Lorin it's been really, really cool, and you know, just speaking on it coming full circle and everything, you know, him working with my dad, Lorin is one of those people that, you know, he's been working with the sport for a long time, and he's managed to do a lot of cool things, so he's never short of stories. And I mean, even, you know, we've been driving from Charlotte to Kinley tonight, so that we can be ready at the track tomorrow. And I mean, you know, we'll get into any conversation, and you know, sometimes you know, he'll tell me something about my dad that I've never heard before, and sometimes I ask him questions, you know, just things that he recalls from you know, the time they spent together and the time that he spent with my grandfather. But I mean, it's really cool. It's a really neat experience for both of us, I think, and I know especially for me growing up and, you know, figuring out who I am and what God wants for me. I think I'm right where I'm supposed to be right now.
What do you think, caller? Did that answer what you wanted to know?
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for calling in. Well, while we're talking with you, Robbie, you said you've got quite a few more races planned for this season. Your season's not over yet. Are you looking at anything like the Snowball Derby or one of those big super late model races like that?
We're not. There's a chance that I'll be down at the Snowball Derby this year, and you know, details of that aren't exactly clear yet. So yeah, you know, I couldn't in good conscience give you any definitive answer there right now. But you know, like I mentioned before, we have been doing the arena racing deal up in Richmond, and I'll continue to do that through the wintertime to stay in shape and probably try to get to, you know, maybe a random promotional race that goes on here or there. But I can tell you, even if I'm not racing in any division in the Snowball Derby, I will be down there. So if you see me, feel free to stop by and say hello.
That was going to be my next question. Have you ever been down there as a spectator? Because I've heard it is a zoo down there with all those cars.
If you have never been, you have got to go, because it is a blast, and I always go down there as a fan. So it does get a little bit chilly, so definitely bring a towel or a space heater or something. But definitely try to make it down there if you haven't been before.
Yeah, it's definitely a bucket list race, a lot like the Chili Bowl Nationals or other races like that. It's a one-of-a-kind deal for late models. If you, like you said, if you haven't been, you wouldn't believe it.
It sounds like we're getting a little bit of interference from somewhere. You guys hearing that?
No, I was just listening to me.
Okay. All right. Robbie, you said that you listened, you watched YouTube channels. What what particular series are you watching? I guess we all have our favorite Allison moment. Mine would be Davey and Bobby racing there for the Daytona win. Tell us about your favorite YouTube moment.
That's one of mine, actually. That's one of my favorites. And usually what I do, if it's for, quote unquote homework purposes, that I'm watching whatever track or series or division that I'm currently racing in. Lately I've been watching a lot of arena racing, and before that, watching this weekend or this week leading up to now, of course I've been watching a lot of stuff on Southern National. So I do a lot of studying on YouTube, but as far as an emotional favorite thing on YouTube that I could find, it would probably be the 88 Daytona 500. When my dad finished second to my grandfather, and that's my grandfather. He was 50 at the time, and he still is the oldest guy to ever win the Daytona 500 because of that. And he still likes to remind me that that's probably not a record that's ever going to be broken, because guys tend to retire a little bit earlier today and enjoy some of their success. So that's at the top of my list. And I'd say another one is probably what I would consider to be one of the most exciting races of all time, was the Star race in '92. When my dad managed to win the race, but he didn't know it until the next day when he was regaining his consciousness after his wreck that he had going across the finish line.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Definitely an odd celebration in Victory Lane that night with the driver headed to the hospital. Steve, it's just awesome to have the legendary Davey Allison's son on our radio show here. Just the history that his family has in racing. It's quite an honor. It really is.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I was working at Hendrick Motorsports when Davey was racing, and I knew who he was. That was pretty much the extent of it. But I do have one story about him that made me respect him more than anything else. I even remember the time and place. We were at Dover in 1985, and I was carrying tires for Jeff Bodine at the time. And back then, NASCAR was very lenient on whether your equipment stayed in your pit box or not. And the tire changers, when they took a tire off, they would pivot and set that old tire out on pit road as far out as they could to make you drive around it and hopefully slow down and lose some time driving around the tires. But anyway, I had dropped the rear tire off and was coming around the back of the car, and Davey was in the pit box behind us, and they had finished their stop, and he was exiting his pit box at a high rate of speed, and we ran out of room, and I lost that collision, and I went flying, and didn't think that much about it. Didn't break anything, so it wasn't that big a deal. But it wasn't 10 minutes after that race was over, Davey had come down to our car hauler where we were loading up, asked Harry Hyde, who the guy was that he hit on pit road and was he all right and everything. And Harry told him it was me, and he came over to me, and he was just unbelievably apologetic about hitting me on pit road and truly concerned was I hurt or anything. And I was like, man, I was as far out on pit road as you were. It was my fault as much as it was yours. But I got hit a couple of other times after that. But he was the only driver that ever came and said anything or even showed any concern, that he had hit somebody or not. And he just
He was like that.
No, he just had my lasting respect after that. I just I always kind of kept an eye on him at the track to see how he was running and how he was doing.
He was like that.
That I really appreciate you sharing that story. Lorin's sitting here saying that's really cool. That he was that kind of guy. But it makes me feel good to hear stories like that, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, he was. Like I said, we weren't good friends, or even if he knew who I was or anything, but it just made me respect him a ton, and subconsciously, I was always just kind of looking to see how he was running, how we were running compared to him and everything. He was a cool guy. He really was.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I guess my question now is, Wayne, how did you get set up with this hot shoe? How did all that come together?
Well, we got a gentleman, kind of hooked us up a little bit. He knew Robbie there, and he knew me, and we ended up talking about it, and I was blessed enough to have somebody like Robbie to come on board and run at a race, and with me, dancing around the idea of moving out of that situation, and still with a shop full of cars, somebody has to drive them, and so I mean, I don't think we could find a better fit. It's funny that we talk about fit. Robbie is almost the identical size I am, and so when he sat down in the car, we never even had to move the seat or change the weight or anything in the car. It was almost like the car was actually built and designed around him, so talking about a perfect fit, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better situation, so we immediately got to practice without having to put it on the scales and change things around. But John, I mean, we got hooked up together through him, but I think it was the right move, and I hope I'm just a very small part of his future. I mean, just something. It would be cool to me to hang something up on the wall one day when he's winning cup championships, saying, "Hey, I knew that kid. He drove my car a couple of times," and it would just be cool to me to share it with my grandkids or whatever, So just feel blessed, and meeting him and Lorin both. Lorin's a straight up guy, So having a good time with him, that's for sure.
Robbie, do you see yourself ready to quit racing at 50 if you make it to the big series? I mean, you could be very well the one to beat your granddad's record, right?
That would be that, as long as I'm still feeling good at 50, I'll keep going.
Yeah, maybe we need to record this so when it happens we can look back on it. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Maybe we just made a little prediction there.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's get together in 27 years and talk about it.
I'm sure we'll be
going or not. My chiropractor will be my best friend by then, I'm thinking.
Yes, definitely. Steve, what else you got?
My man CJ Sports has got something he wants to bring to the table.
When I was listening to you tell your story about the tire changing thing, and I was sitting there thinking in my mind, my father did it back in the late 70s, and he said that was one of the scariest things he'd ever done. And I'm sitting there thinking about the time frame, which then therefore was no speed road limit. And you were talking about positioning the tires out there to hopefully get the other guys to slow down a little bit. Did the thought cross your guys' mind at any point that what happens if they hit these tires at full speed and that tire comes flying back at you guys?
Oh, hell no. We never thought about that.
That's what we sit there thinking the whole time. It was like, did nobody think about that?
Oh, we didn't think about that. We didn't think about hardly anything. I didn't. The only thing I ever thought about was make sure I got up. If it looked like I was going to get hit, make sure I got up in the air, not under the car. And that was all I ever thought about. The rest of it was just, you just did it, and you just didn't even think about it. I mean, I had to run out around behind the front tire changer, And here I am carrying a 70-pound tire in each hand, running as hard as I can out there where these cars at Daytona and Talladega are going by at 150 miles an hour. And I just, I was just oblivious to it. The only thing I thought of was get there before the tire changers needed those tires. And, it never dawned on me that, wow, somebody could hit one of these tires and knock me 100 feet down pit road or, hit the jack or anything. I mean, they just, anything the pit crew could do to slow the driver down getting in and out of his pit would gain you a tenth of a second. We take a tenth of a second anywhere we could. But by the same token, the drivers would cut so close to you coming in and out of their pit, trying to scare you, trying to make you hesitate one step and gain them a tenth of a second. So it was a bit of a mind game going on there when I was the third one over the wall across the front of the car, and by the time I got there, usually that guy coming in the next pit was turning in. So there was a crack I had to get through every time to get through there to get those tires there before the tire changer needed them. And I just didn't let the other driver intimidate me, but they would. I mean, they'd run as hot and as close to you as they could coming in and out of the pits, just trying to scare you a little bit.
I've got a question again for Robbie there. Robbie, have you considered dirt track racing or maybe World of Outlaws or Lucas Oil or anything like that, or are you just going to stay strictly pavement?
I ran a few dirt races this year at a track in Southwest Virginia called Width Raceway, which if you're not familiar with it, it's really similar to a Virginia Motor Speedway or an Eldora, just a big, giant, high bank, fast, super speedway for dirt. I mean, just awesome. And had a great time, felt like I picked up on the differences between dirt and asphalt pretty quickly. And I was hooked on it right away. I mean, talk about a blast, So I would definitely plan on doing more dirt racing in the future.
That's a good track to start out at. No need to start no little bull ring. Get out there on the high banks and let it eat.
Yeah, absolutely. I was jumping into the car, and then the tech guy comes over and starts pulling my mirrors out of the car, and I was like, "What are you doing, man?" He was like, no mirrors here, and I was like, "Well, hang on, let me tell my spotter," and he was like, "Sorry, you can't have that either." So that was a good first experience. I was just, kind of thrown to the wolves, I guess you could say. And like I said, I mean, I felt like, it was life or death for me, so I had to pick up on it pretty quick.
What was your reaction when he started taking your mirrors out? How did that hit you?
Well, I was about to get out of the car and hit him because I thought he was sabotaging my car, but yeah, it's just pretty wild. I'd never run without mirrors, and I'd definitely never run without a spotter before that. So for the first time for me to not have mirrors or a spotter, I was getting on dirt for the first time too. So I was like, "Holy cow, this is going to be a very interesting night," and it was. It was a really interesting night. I think we ended up like 5th or 6th in the feature. But we had a donut from the dually on my right front tire, which was making it pretty squirrely in the corners.
That was a night of first then, wasn't it? How did it feel to honk that puppy down the straightaway and sling it sideways through the corner? It's definitely not a feel you get too often in the asphalt car. How'd you like that?
Well, luckily I had been sideways on asphalt enough times to where it wasn't a completely unfamiliar feeling. But it's wild, it's wild. I had to ignore some instincts, and the cool thing about it that made me really get hooked on it right away was that once you do it right, it's almost like it kind of clicks. You fall into this rhythm and get in the zone. And my grandfather was out there with me that night as well, the first time I got out there on dirt. And just to be able slow down on his caution laps and look into the pits, and I could see my grandfather eating a sandwich, and he's throwing a thumbs up at me like, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. So I'm like, all right, let's go, hammer down. And so that's what we did. And, that it was really cool to being able to, get out there, and I qualified last because, I had no idea what I was doing. I hadn't been out there before. And so I qualified last, started in the back. And on the first lap around, I'm coming up on the guy that's second to last place, and I'm like, man, he's moving slow. I think I can get around him. So I got around him, and next thing I know, it's 8 or 9, and I'm fighting for 4th place. So, I just the immediate gratification that came from picking up on it was really cool to experience.
Yeah, I bet it was. And it's really, and what really strikes me as being cool is you can be cool, but you're not Robbie Allison giving you a thumbs up eating a sandwich cool. Now that's the ultimate racing cool right there. Your grandfather
that's good
was
motivation to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, your grandfather was a hell of a driver, and I remember watching him at the old Fairground Speedway in Richmond in the early 60s when I was a wee lad, and he was always one of my favorites. The biggest thing I remember about him is 9 times out of 10 he'd be honking that little red and white Chevelle, and he'd have that left arm thrown up on the window, elbow out, like he was a Sunday drive, and he's just getting hot laps. I'm really glad I got to talk with you and meet with you, Robbie, and we'll definitely keep an eye on you this weekend. While we got a minute, give a shout-out to your sponsors or your family, anybody you want to recognize.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to give a shout-out to Wayne and Tim Goss for getting hooked up with us and being on board, having faith in me to bring home the hardware this weekend, So big shout-out to you guys, and of course, John Vick with Southern National, and just getting us to come out to try to help promote the track a little bit, and a shout out to Rod calling from Florida, because we know him, and he's we're working on some stuff with him now, so great guy, and look forward to getting to know him better too. So
good.
Outside of that, just a shout out to my No, I'm sorry, they're down in Miami right now, so I hope they're doing well down in Florida too.
They're in a good place. They're nice up there. Let everybody know your social media sites so they can keep up with you. We can find out how you're doing.
Absolutely, yeah. All of my handles on social media are Robbie Allison 28. And if you've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Etsy, anything, I'm on there as Robbie Allison 28. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Good deal. We'll be
Robbie,
looking for you. And Wayne
Robbie,
Goss.
Can I talk to
Go ahead.
We've got a special request. I don't know how you are about following people, but at the 28 fan, ask for you to follow him on Twitter.
Say it for me one more time.
At the 28 fan. I guess he's a 28 fan.
All right, I'm searching for him now.
Yeah, at the 28 fan.
I'll put him in there. And,
let him know he's getting a follow right now.
All right, good deal.
Yeah, we'll blow him up. Wayne, what's in your future now? What you got going on after this race this weekend?
Well, got a lot of rebuilding to do. Get some cars ready and hunker down for the winter. Try to relax a little bit from the hustle and bustle of the summer and the racing, and but just get ready for next season. I mean, it's funny. As soon as the turkey race is over, you got to turn around and start preparing for the next season, because it used to, when you would have off time, and your off time would be plentiful, but time goes by so fast when you're old and decrepit, and so you just got to keep moving, and so now it's just time to get the cars back ready for next season. send everything off to make sure it's, up to par and get some cars going, and looking forward to being more of a car owner next year than I am a driver, which I don't know if I was ever a driver, but I would just hold on to the wheel and wherever it took me, I went. But is just more looking forward to doing something like that, and maybe changing, some stuff around, and may even, who knows, try to hit a different track or two from time to time.
There you go.
Other than sticking with one, and then look, nothing, like I said before, I've said this on your show before, there's nothing like being at home. Southern National Speedway is my home. It is a great facility, probably one of the nicest on the East Coast, and I enjoy it. I live a long ways from there. It's a hard, 12, 14 miles, and but I absolutely love the place. I don't think there's a better place to race, but every now and then it probably wouldn't hurt to venture out and just to make a change and say you did something different from time to time. And I've raced at a lot of racetracks all the way from Jacksonville, Florida, Oglethorpe Speedway in Savannah, Georgia. I think the Jacksonville was Jack's Park Speedway. Oglethorpe, Coastal Plains, Wake County. I've run a lot of racetracks, and I kind of got away from it. I think this coming year, who knows, may hit one on one of the weeks that we're off at Kenley, and go play around a little bit, and try something new, and I'm open for it all. Like I say, with having Robbie, at fingertips a little bit now, I might call him up from time to time and see if he wants to go hit something new, and so. I don't know, just looking forward to next year now. I mean, it's kind of crazy we're talking about next year, but, here we are.
All right, well, give your business a shout-out, and anybody else you want to recognize while we got a moment.
Okay. Well, my business is G&S Auto Body. We specialize in collision and custom restoration. We do some real good work over there. Been doing it for myself now for about 29 years, and so it definitely starts showing age now. But, and CJW Motorsports. I mean, we got a good team. Buckshot being the crew chief, Ronnie Ray Jones. He's good at what he does, and knows exactly how to set up a race car. And without him, I don't know that I'd be where I'm at in the late model program. I mean, he's an engineering genius, as young as he is. And if I knew half of what he knew, I don't know where I'd be right now. But, got a good group of people, a good team, and I'm bringing a few new people on board next year. So I'm looking forward to them coming over and helping out as well.
Good deal, Lucille. I'm glad I got to talk to you again, Wayne, and I'll have you back on any chance I get, man. You're a great guest and a guy with a lot of insight and a lot of thoughts. I appreciate you stopping by tonight.
Yes, sir. I'm still a little sad that Lorin didn't ever speak up. I enjoy hearing him tell some tales. So, but yeah,
I'm here.
I'll get to talk to him tomorrow.
I'm here. If you got any questions, I'm here.
Well, Lorin, good to talk to you, bud. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Doing good. Been enjoying the show.
Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got hooked up with Robbie and Wayne.
Well, my background is my father was a pretty prominent car owner in the 80s. Harry Ranier used to own the 28 car, and so I've been been around cup racing all my life. And as far as both Bobby and Davey drove for my father, and so I've been around the Allisons for basically 35 years. So this is the third generation of Allison I've got to work with here. So it's been pretty good situation. So and then for the last 20 years I've been a Sprint Cup spotter, and I just stopped doing that for Jamie McMurray, who I spotted for 10 seasons. So I've been on that quite a bit as well. Been on the NASCAR Cup Tour for a long time, and I've helped develop a lot of drivers. Go ahead.
It sounds like as much as you've been around the Allisons, they probably set you a place at the Thanksgiving table there.
Well, not exactly, but it's been a good relationship for on and off for a long time, and Bobby was always my favorite driver as a kid, so that was kind of a cool deal. The fact that your favorite driver actually got to drive for your family, that's pretty awesome. And then obviously I played a big part in Davey coming up into the 28 car back in 1987. So that was a pretty cool time in my life as a young guy. I was about 20 years old or 21, and to help bring Davey up was a pretty cool situation. And so yeah, it's been good. It's been a good deal. And obviously we brought some other drivers along, like Tony Stewart, and I helped develop Jimmy Johnson and guys like that over the years. So it's been a really good situation.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been around a lot of them. I guess our careers kind of overlapped. I was in Cup from 84 to 92, and you mentioned 87, so I know we were there then. So I'm sure we probably bounced off each other once or twice in the garage.
Sure, yeah. I was pretty young then, obviously 84. If you remember the Hardy's car with KO and all that, well, we owned that car back then, with Wardell Wilson and KO Yarborough and all that. So, yeah, I've been doing this a long time. Well, my whole life, really.
Yeah, I was good friends. The guy driving the hauler then was Dale Miller.
Yeah.
And I was, and still am, good friends with his son, Roger. Me and Roger were housemates at one time.
Yeah, Roger. I'm actually friends with Roger on Facebook. So actually.
Yeah, he's a hell of a guy. Well, I hate we're out of time because I could sit here and talk to you all night, Lorin. But I tell you what, I do want to get you back on here in the near future, and we can sit down and talk some tales about NASCAR racing back in the day in the 80s and 90s. You think you can make time?
Anytime, man. You wake me up in the middle of the night and talk about racing.
I'm the same way. Well, y'all have a happy Thanksgiving, and like I said, I'm glad I got to talk with Lorin and Robbie and Wayne as always. I'm glad I got to meet you guys. Good luck this weekend, and we'll be looking out for you to see how you do.
Hey, thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to y'all.
Good deal. Glad to have y'all on. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Well, guys, pretty good show tonight, I think. I like talking with those guys. Robbie sounds like a pretty driven individual who really wants to make something out of himself racing. Not just be known as an Allison, but be known as Robbie Allison. So I think we'll be seeing a lot of him.
I think we need to, already schedule next time for them to come on and just, fill up the 2 hours and tell us some stories about being an Allison, man. I tell you what, you're in a lot of people's hearts right now when you talk about the Allisons and the region. A lot of the new NASCAR, they talk about Gordon and Busch and all. It's the South is forgotten about in a lot of it. And what Davey Allison brought to a lot of these people's hearts was just as strong as Dale Earnhardt did in the later years. I think a lot of Davey Allison fans wound up Earnhardt fans before it was over with. They've held on to that Southern tradition, and having a driver like Robbie come on tonight and the history with his family and all, it's absolutely amazing. Just a great time with the 110 Sports Nation.
Yeah, you're right. We need to get him on because we got so much history and everything with Robbie Allison and Lorin Ranier. I mean, he's been around major league stock car racing teams and guys like the Allisons, Buddy Baker, Cale Yarborough. I mean, these were guys that were the top dogs in the 70s and 80s and just real hard-nosed racers, real tough racers, and I'm sure he's got a million stories he could tell, and it'd be a million stories that I'd like to hear. So I definitely think, depending on how they run this weekend, we might see if we can't get them back on next week and talk to them some more. Well, stick a fork in my butt. I'm done. CJ, you got anything you want to add or anything you want to push?
No, just make sure you guys check out the blog site, www.110nationsports.com, and also check out our company site, www.110nation.com.
I had a great time. Get us on YellowCautionFlag.com. It'll hook you up to all your needs and wants of circle track racing. Tune in again for another great episode of Racing with Big Sweat. Next week, same bad time, same bad place, fellas. It's always an honor and a privilege. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody who listens to us. Y'all have a good night.
There you go, folks. If you want to follow me, come to my racing group, NASCAR and Other Racing. We have a lot of serious discussions, but we have a lot of fun, too, so come check us out. And check us out next Thursday night, 9 o'clock. We're going to have another show lined up, and I promise you it'll be worth listening to. Thanks again for tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you next week. Good night.
Hey, check out these sweet reindeer socks. Only 99 cents.
Oh, yeah? Got this Samsung Tab 4 8.0 from AT&T for free.
Free?
Had a hard time finding a stocking it would fit in, though.
Whoa, no need to rub it in.
Rubbing it in would be telling you I got the tablet for free when I bought a new Samsung Galaxy smartphone on AT&T Next. Which I did.
Oh, AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Free tablet requires 2-year agreement. Must activate eligible service on both Galaxy devices. Fees, charges, and restrictions apply. Available at select locations. See store for details.